Hello ladies and gentlemen, Panzer here, and welcome to Project Highrise. Now, this is a pre-release build of the game, and so when this finally comes out, of course, then you guys will be able to pick this up on Steam. But what is this game? This is a kind of simulation management, or rather tower management game. So if you like that sort of thing, if you've played Sim Tower, and you wanted a modern day kind of follow-up to that, and I really like Sim Tower, so that's kind of why this caught my eye to begin with. So if you like that game, then this might well be for you. However, I will preface this by saying it is a very, very difficult game. Let's get on with it, shall we? So, first things first, there are tutorials and things, and this right here is very, very nice to see. They're already planning for modding support and everything like that, so yeah, that's going to be happening. So, a lot of things in the works there, and let's just get on with it. You can just launch this in sandbox mode and off you go. That is the main sort of the game, but you have scenarios as well that will be coming that have set restrictions and objectives and all of that stuff. So, this kind of takes the Sim Tower formula and kind of turns it on its head a little bit. Okay, so let's start a new game, and this is a sort of randomized name. We're just going to start with the standard difficulty, so I can kind of show you what this is all about. Loading times are fairly minimal. Right, so this is our tower. There's not much really, is there? Now, aside from the art style difference, of course, let's just pause that before anything happens. Yeah, it doesn't really look like Sim Tower. It's more like a kind of minimalistic 1990s New York City is what this is basically based on, and there's a lot more depth to it than even the original Sim Tower has, both in good and bad ways, and I'll explain as we go. Right, let's get on with it. Keyboard shortcuts are all there already, so we've got our pause, we've got normal, and we've got super fast speed. So this here is our construction office. You start off with just this basic construction office that has only 2 workers, and they do actually build in real time. So let me just give you an example of what that looks like. We're going to build an office. So to build this office, I just plonk it down, and that's it. Alright, so that's the first office. Let's just close the tutorial. And that's it. Like, it already exists. However, you now have to rent out to specific tenants. In the past, all this stuff would be automated. You place it down and off it goes. It works. Now you have to look for tenants. And you do actually have to satisfy certain needs. Like, for example, this legal office here requires restaurants or places to eat, and this creative office requires prestige and cafes and everything, so they all have different tiers, and this is both a good and bad thing. Like, it slows down the gameplay, which is my biggest gripe with it, but it does give you a lot more depth for some of the basic stuff, because as you see as you go along, you can get even HQ suites, you've got large offices, medium offices, and they all have sort of mini tiers in between, so they don't stop being useful. Just because, you know, you've got the next tier of it, you don't need to build them anymore. You do actually have a use for these small offices, which I like. So let's have a look here. We've got accountants, they require food courts. So we can actually put that down if we want to, or we can go straight for the insurance officers. These pay out the least, but they have basically no requirements whatsoever, so we can go with that. And we have utilities, which is something the original Sim Tower didn't really have. You actually now have to put power lines and water, you even have cable TV and phones, and yeah, you got a lot, and you have to expand on these things, so they take up a lot of space very quickly. So you've got phone switchboards, you've got electrical transformers. All of these are basic utility things that give you additional capacity, and then these closets, which will combine your plumbing and all of your wiring into one, allow you to distribute that between floors. So if I was to build a second floor, I would need to put a wiring closet above that. Now, the overall building system is a sort of grid, where everything is kind of these rectangular shapes instead of squares. So if I was to build another floor, in fact, if you remember Sim Tower, I'm going to be referencing Sim Tower a lot, I would be able to just put an office like that. Like, I wouldn't actually need to do anything. I would just put the office like that, but as it stands, I can't actually do that without building the floor first. Bizarrely, though, the floor itself, and I'm just doing this for demonstration, the floor itself can't actually be built on immediately. Like, I put that down, I can't actually use it yet, and that's simply because it has to be constructed first. So that's a thing. But weirdly enough, you can actually sort of place utilities and things like that. Like, I can put this wiring closet there. It doesn't need to be constructed. I don't know how it gets there, but, you know, it can do that immediately. And, let's just have a look at the... Put some staircases. I can actually put stairs. You have to put those going up, but you don't have to do it sort of going down, I believe. Like, that works. So it doesn't have to have a staircase above it, it basically only goes down, but if I want to go up again, I would have to, yeah. It's a bit of a weird thing. I'll get onto that in a minute, because I'm just going to finish off this floor here, just to kind of even it out. Right, let's put that back up to normal speed. They'll go up there and start building. So that is being built for our tenants that are coming in, and then the other guy has gone and disappeared over here to build the staircases. So I kind of don't really like that system because it takes up space. In the past, you'd had escalators and staircases, which could just simply use the space available. Like, it would just be an overlay that goes between them, and I think that's actually a better system simply because it doesn't get in the way, so you didn't have to worry about that. You did have to worry about spaces for elevators or lifts, so that was something I preferred, where lifts do viably have to take up space, but in this, yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. So let's get some accounting offices. We need cafes for, or restaurants for that. We can put these in the basement. I don't think there's going to be too much of an issue there. Let's put those there, and we can grab some more offices as well while we're at it. In fact, let's just fill up this bottom floor with insurance. And this one can be a food court restaurant. Homemade soups. Lovely. Right, so there is additional things that you have to pay attention to. If you look over here in the tooltip, it does say that this is a sub shop that serves lunch. You do actually have to pay attention to that, because later on you get tenants that require restaurants that that serve lunch or dinner or breakfast. Yeah. Different tenants have different needs, and it's not specific to just that, you know, they are a small office, for example, like this, or that they are an insurance agent. It is actually specific to that particular client, which can get very difficult to manage very quickly if you can see where that goes. I'll show you one of my actual towers later on in the video, so you get a good idea of what that looks like. Alright, so let's get the soup place, because that sounds nice. And I think we can actually recruit these guys already, or does it require more? Oh, we can get the legal office already. They're pretty happy with that. They do require services as well, and that's another thing. Yeah, so you can see very quickly there's a lot of things to actually worry about, because, like, services, right? So you've got offices and you've got apartments. So these are the two things that it's basically split into. You've got the main tenants that you will have are residence or business, essentially. Retail and restaurants and all of that doesn't count under your tenancy. They are just sort of, well, they are your tenants, but they don't count as people who live in the building. So they don't require any specific services other than storage and things like that. But these guys have a lot of services. Like, yeah, a lot. Even up to helicopter charters and limousine services. So once you get to that level, you're going to need to have these things as well. At the beginning, you just have these. And they take up a fair amount of space. Like, this courier service is bigger than a small office. So you do actually have to allocate quite a lot of space to that. Personally, I've actually found that building another floor very quickly actually helps with that. In fact, expanding the floors themselves can actually make that a lot easier. This is another weird thing as well. You can't build a basement here if there isn't one above. I don't know why. That doesn't make much sense to me. You should be able to sort of build, but yeah, whatever. I guess it needs a ceiling above it or something, but for this, yeah, this makes sense. Going upwards makes sense, But yeah, below it doesn't quite make that much sense to me. Right, let's just expand this outwards. You can even see the outline of the building expanding along with it, which I think is kind of cool. It's just a nice little touch there. Right, I do want to move that transformer. I do have a lot of money right now, so I'm actually just kind of spending it. Really, I'm going to put that transformer there and get rid of this one. There we go. Okay, so let's just speed that up. Weirdly, you can actually just continuously speed up, so you can hear I can just make that noise constantly. No, not really an issue, it's just something I've noticed. Right, so let's get the legal offices. They do require phone lines, so let's make sure we've got those in place first. Get the power in. They just have to touch one tile, and that's considered a connection. But, yeah, let's just get these guys. So, oh, we need a phone switchboard thingy for that. Phone switchboard, there we go. Ah, that can go right there. Kind of makes sense. Yeah. Right, what was I doing? Oh, yep, legal office. Okay, so get one of those. You can kind of see they do pay different amounts of rent, but you can expect those that are paying higher to have a much lower threshold for that. You can tweak how much they actually pay for rent. Like if you click this, you can actually set that rate. You can adjust it by a certain amount, and that will affect their satisfaction and things like that. If they're really happy, then of course you can just turn it up a little bit more, squeeze a bit more money out of them, make them less happy, because, you know, they're in an office. Office workers aren't allowed to be happy. And, so, yeah, there's a lot of things to think about. Right, let's get some courier services. So that's the spot that I wanted for that. And we need copy services. Copy service, and I don't think well, we could probably get bottled water, but that's really something for later on. And we can, of course, expand a little bit, put some more offices down. So this is the basics of a tower, really. Let's just get some more of these guys. Yeah. Alright. Oh, we'll need power as well for these. And phones. They don't require plumbing, but they will require bottled water and things. You know, the bigger offices require that sort of stuff. Right, so that's how you basically start off a town. Now I'm going to show you one that I've made before. Hopefully the game's saved. I have no idea if it will. Alright, here we are. I'm just going to pose it. I'm going to pose that tower. And I'm just going to pause it because things go wrong very quickly in this game. It's kind of like playing Banished. You want to speed it up, but at the same time you shouldn't because things go wrong very quickly. Right, so if you look at these offices, you'll notice they're not all the same. They actually change slightly depending on the actual tenants. It's a nice little bit of detail that I think is really cool that they've done. So this right here is actually a tax office, but this here is actually a CPA's office. So I believe that's an accountant. I don't know accountancy terms, it probably is. But yeah, so they have slightly different offices. And then here you've got a private investigator, and here you've got a law office. They're all slightly different depending on the type of tenant. So, yeah, that's kind of cool. But one thing, and this is something that I actually really hate, is that they do get worn out very quickly. Or rather, over time, everything becomes more run down, and you have a maintenance office, which is over here, which helps you to maintain them. Now, they don't do this automatically, and it does cost money to renovate offices. So, here's the thing. Everything sort of has a maintenance cost already. Like, this elevator requires $50 a day to maintain. These stairs, $10 a day. Now, my question, and this is kind of a question to the developers as well, why couldn't the offices also have just that same maintenance cost and then have them do this automatically? Because what tends to happen is that, now that graphic there, if I zoom out, you can't really tell. It looks a little bit like a shadow, so you can't really tell that that is getting run down unless you click on it. And when they're about to move out because of how run down it is and how dissatisfied they are, it comes up with a big angry face on it, and that's the only indication that that's going to change anything. And usually by that time, if you click this button to renovate it, it's too late. So that's a real annoyance. Incidentally, making money at this stage seems to be a little bit difficult, or I haven't quite figured it out yet. So you can see a lot of the offices do need renovating. A lot of them do. This guy doesn't like it because it's too noisy, and most of the noise is actually coming from this salad bar over here. Salad bars are noisy, who would have thought? And strange smells keep coming from somewhere. It's probably from the salad bar. That's the thing that you have to manage as well. So there's this overlay over here, which is a little bit... It's a little bit hard to see for me, so bear in mind I might take a little bit of time reading it. It's not because of the game, by the way, it's because my recording software has an overlay over here, which blocks half of it. Anyway, so, you can have a look at all of these things. So, grime, you can see the offices themselves generate quite a lot of that. They're, in fact, the biggest generators of grime. So are these, the studio apartments that are put up here. There is also trash. So, generators of trash, there doesn't seem to be any here, but then there's smells. And you can see by the graphic that, you know, how widespread it actually is, but it's really hard to actually see it. Because over here, if I just close that, you can see it's sort of spreading between the floors as well, but it's very faint at this stage, so it's affecting these guys. Not to a great deal, but it's affecting them nonetheless, and it's hard to know exactly how far it's spreading, especially when it goes over some of these colors. So it looks pretty, but it's not the most useful bit of information. Same thing with noise. Like, look at the amounts of noise here. When you get a lot of really noisy areas, yeah, it starts to get pretty bad. It starts to get really hard to tell what's going on. So restaurants and retail outlets tend to make the most noise, and they also have the longest operating hours. But yeah, it seems to spread over a very wide area. But you can see over here it's completely noise-free, and then we can see the traffic as well. So this is actually useful, and probably because it's green, the color seems a little bit easier to see. Maybe if they change the shade of red they use or something, that might be clearer. But the green is really easy to see, so you can see where the majority of the traffic is going, and you can plan your retail outlets and things accordingly. So these offices generate a lot of traffic. So you kind of want to build in a way that allows all of the outlets to be bypassed on the way there. That's actual proper planning stuff. Like, that is actually how supermarkets and big retail outlets and shopping malls even are actually planned, by the way. Just to give you an idea, that is actually kind of along the lines of how things are planned. So this graphic here is actually very useful, and I think the traffic simulation is pretty realistic in that sense. But yeah, the maintenance is the biggest thing for me that I really, really don't like. It's just that it doesn't make sense that it is not automatic. But other than that, let's just close that overlay so we can see it more clearly. The amount of things, like, I haven't even got onto this stuff. There's media campaigns as well. When you get enough buzz, which is a bit of a strange word to use because you generate buzz to then start a media campaign, which in the real world is called something that generates buzz. So yeah, it's kind of the wrong way around it, but you know, it's buzz is actually generated by having retail outlets and restaurants and things that are doing well, and when customers visit them, it generates a bit of buzz, and that buzz goes towards these sort of campaigns, which don't they don't cost money, they just cost a lot of this buzz currency. And they all do different things. Like, it looks like it's an actual tree, but it's not. They all do different things. Like this one here improves satisfaction for all of your current residents. So anybody staying in an apartment, for 24 hours, their satisfaction goes up. It doesn't seem to really do anything other than that. I think you can probably jack up their rent for a day, because incidentally, all the rent is paid out daily. This is quite useful. It cuts your expenses on gas and cable in half. Construction costs are also lower as well, so if you want to really build a mass of apartments, you could probably do that. This one is interesting because it allows you to take on contracts, which are these things up here at the top, which give you objectives and then pay you out at the end. So they're sort of like subsidies and things that you can take on in those tycoon games. Though that's what you can do, and you can only take 2 at a time, but this will allow you to take on 3. So they all do very, very different things. Like, it's a bit of a strangely laid out menu. Influence affects only your building, so you need these management office. So up here I've got an aesthetics office, so that's the interior decorator there. We've got the building manager, and these help you to build things within your building. So the operations allows you to get bigger construction office. There's this one down here which has 3 construction workers, or at a maximum 3, and you can actually add an additional one. Maintenance works and things are all done faster, and you can optimize service work as well, so all of these services like plumbers and couriers and things are even faster as well. That just improves the overall operation of the building. The aesthetics here help you to grow the amount of influence and buzz and things that your building sort of gets, and improves the prestige, which is then used to unlock other things. So all of these are sort of your upgrade trees. This one, which I haven't built yet on this building, is the politics office, which allows you to lobby the city hall to give you better, or give you more rights. Yeah. So there's the public transit, which actually unlocks the metro station, which in the original Sim Tower was one of the final tier sort of things that you can do, is to build a metro station. And just like in Sim Tower, you can't remove it once it's built. So it's one of those things that you have to be very careful with. But it increases the number of visitors to your building by a huge amount. So that's another thing as well. You can increase the height limit by double. In fact, you can have up to 80 floors, which I believe is less. You used to be able to get 100 floors on Sim Tower. But given how hard it is to manage just, I believe, 6 floors that I have here, if you don't count the basement, yeah, 100 floors would be a nightmare. You can even improve the zoning as well. So, like right now, on this building here, if we just have the grid, you can actually expand this even further to the sides. So, yeah, you can make some really colossal towers. But, yeah, there's so much to get through. I mean, even just like the contract system as well. These come up. Here you can scroll through it, and there's so many to choose from when you get them. And these are just a good way of getting some quick money. You can even take out loans as well if you want to. You can use credit cards. I don't know. Why would a building be using a credit card? Anyway, so yeah, you can take out loans as well, and these will be paid out over a certain period of time. Yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say, really. It's just that it's a very good tower builder. It's a very, very difficult management game, and I still have yet to really... Like, this building, by the way, is on the verge of collapse, essentially. Like, it's going completely wrong. I'm not earning enough money, and it's just... that's why I kind of stopped on this one and started again. But you can kind of see how diverse things get. It's very hard to tell sort of what things are, because I think the art style doesn't diversify it enough. So, these being retail outlets, this is a shoe store. This is actually a handbag store, or a briefcase store. It's very hard to tell what individual things are. There is a nice amount of variety in there, but even so, it's not varied enough. Like, you can look at this one over here and see that this is, well, this is an appliance store, and then this is a diner. But at first glance, it isn't separated clearly enough. I remember playing Sim Tower back then and being able to immediately tell that this is an office, this is an apartment, this is a retail outlet, and you don't get that same sort of feeling with this game because of its art style. It's nice, don't get me wrong, but it makes it a little bit more difficult to know what's really going on when a lot is happening, and I'm saying this after only building 6 floors, essentially. 8 floors. No, 9. 9 floors. But yeah, if you're looking for a challenging management game, though, this is shaping up to be something that's really, really good, and I'm really happy to see a new tower game coming in, because honestly, Tiny Tower on the phone, which I have played, doesn't really cut it. And short of just trying to get Sim Tower to work on my PC again, I think this is the closest thing to that, and more. Because it really adds to the overall experience, and it really has a lot of depth to it, to the gameplay. So, if this interests you, go and check it out once it's available on Steam. I don't know exactly when that is yet. Yeah, once it's out, go and check it out. Yeah, that's really all there is to it. But if you've enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you're new to the channel. My name is Panzer, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.